Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our masterclass this morning. We welcome you to our Dominica Pathfinder Club masterclass, where we're looking at different areas that would help our Pathfinders to increase skill, to increase knowledge, to increase understanding, but also know how to be a better citizen and how to be a better person for God. So we thank you for joining us at today's masterclass. We have shared that this masterclass would include a number of areas. It would include fires, camping skills, knot tying, and first aid. But today we're looking at fires and camping skills for all Pathfinders. And then we have breakout sessions for camping skills for friends, companions, explorers, and also rangers, foragers, guides. Now, one of the things I'm even more excited about is that Pastor Denny is going to teach us on fires this morning. Pastor Denny, our own youth director, is here to discuss with us, to share with us the requirements we need to know about fires, and he have a treat for us.
All right, thank you kindly. Good morning, everyone. I promise you, I will end at 10 o'clock, if not sooner, so that we can have time for questions, if you have any. This session is going to be a basic one. The hope is that before the year is out, once COVID allows, you will have time to actually get outdoors and do some of the practical aspects of fire building. But I just want to talk to us on building a campfire. So we've already prayed, but you can just say a prayer in your heart, asking for God to help us understand this session and to make the best sense of it. If you can see my screen, give me a thumbs up reaction, so I know that you can see my screen. If you can see my screen, give a thumbs up. I see 6 thumbs up, 18, 20, 24, good. All right, so that means I am being heard and responded to. Awesome, thank you very much. So if you have your books, you can take down your notes. Someone says no, who says no? Okay, Brianne and Annabelle. All right, I hope you can see by now. If you're using a tablet, you may have to move over to the other or slide to the main screen. Someone else says no. All right, so if you can't see, I'm going to do my best. Oh, Annabelle sees now, great. If you can't see, I'm going to do my best to read out as best as possible. But you can take out your books, take your notes, and then we're going to get right into it. We're looking at fire building, and we're going to have 4 major objectives. 1, we're going to name the components needed for making a fire. 2, we're going to distinguish between or among tinder, kindling, and fuel wood. We're going to explain 5 purposes of fire, at least 5 purposes, and we're going to explain how to put out a fire. After this, it's not listed here, but we're going to quickly look at how to make a fire, the steps in making a fire, and as well look at some fires that we can make while in the wilderness. All right, if you can't see, I'm gonna do after this, I will share the PowerPoint with your coordinator, your Pathfinder coordinator, that's Officer Fabian, Officer Lizra, and she will share with the directors who will share with you. But I challenge you to take your notes as well, since you will have it on your book and you can always refer to it. A book never fails. So let's get right to it. There are 3 basic components for making a fire. The basic fire triangle consists of 3 necessities. All of these are needed to keep a fire going. You need oxygen, you need heat, and you need fuel. All right. How many of you as Pathfinders, this should be a very obvious question, or at least I should get a very positive response from this. Okay, nice. We should get, so my question is, how many of you know how to light a stove? Give me a yes or thumbs up if you know how to light a stove. Right, I see hands going up, I see thumbs going up. Nice, good. All right, so I'm gonna show you how heat, fuel, and oxygen are required. When you're lighting the stove, you have a match and you have a matchbox. When you strike the match on the matchbox, you are creating friction, and friction causes heat. So there's your heat right there. If you rub your hands together like this, afterward you're going to feel heat being formed. When you, the matchstick, the end of the matchstick does not just have something that is rough that can rub against the matchbox. It also contains something that can act as a fuel that can be ignited. And yet again, when you place that lit match next to the burner where the gas is coming out, you see a fire is made again. So that is the fuel that's needed. And then of course you have oxygen. Oxygen is what we breathe in to help give us life. So we need oxygen to breathe. And just as we need oxygen to breathe, fire needs oxygen to breathe, to live. So if you have a candle, especially when the current or the electricity goes, and you place if the candle is short enough and you place a cup over the candle or glass over the candle, eventually that candle will go out. Or if you blow on a candle, when you breathe out, you have more carbon dioxide than oxygen. So when you blow on the candle goes out because there's less oxygen in the air surrounding the candle. So for any fire, you need heat, you need fuel, and you need oxygen. If you're out in the wild and it is cold, let's say it is a rainy night, it's going to be more difficult to make a fire than on a dry night or a dry day. If you do not have wood to make your fire, then it's going to be difficult because you're lacking some form of fuel. If it is too windy, or if there's not enough air in the area where you are, then it's going to be difficult for you to have oxygen for your fire to be built. Can I also say, I should say then on this point, that if you want to out a fire, you can remove any of these components and your fire will go out. If you take away the heat, the fire will go down. If you take away the fuel, if you turn off the gas or turn down the knob, the fire goes out. If you remove the oxygen, the fire will go out. And that's how many fire extinguishers function. They take away the heat in some way, they take away the oxygen in most instances, and in some instances, they will help remove the fuel. Now, our second objective we said we're going to look at is distinguishing between tinder, kindling, and fuel wood. This slide will make a lot more sense when we look at how to build fires. All right. Now, tinder, kindling, and fuel wood are all part of making a fire. You need all three of these to make a decent fire for camp. As Pathfinders, we build fires primarily for camping purposes. And we'll explain why we need fires for camp or when we're outdoors in a more specific way. So, tinder is the smallest bit of materials you will have to enable you to start making a fire. These are composed of things such as bark. Bark is the outside of a tree. So if you have an old tree near you and you peel off the bark, that thin layer that you get, it can be sometimes dry or rough. That can form tinder. Grass is another form of tinder. Moss or newspaper. And if you look at all of these are light materials. If you were to light a match and place that lit match next to them, chances are they will catch with fire quickly. They will start to burn very quickly. A match could also be considered a tinder, a bit of tinder, because it is light in material. Right, so we have that. The next thing is kindling. Kindling is next in line in terms of size. And so you have small sticks that will, these are small sticks that will burn quickly. They will fuel the larger fire, they will fuel the larger fuel wood. They should be no bigger than 1 inch in diameter. All right. So these are little branches that you might break off a tree. These might be twigs that you might find in a bush. These should still be dry as fast as possible, but they in turn will light after you've lit the tinder. So your tinder is the first thing that you're going to use to start the fire. And once that catches well, you're going to slowly add kindling, which will be the small sticks that will burn quickly. And as you add them, you notice that your fire will grow, it will increase. And then afterward, you have the fuel wood. That's the larger bits of wood or split logs, about 1 to 2 feet in length. This is what's going to make the big fire. How many of you can show me by the raised hand again or the thumbs up? How many of you have ever gone to the river or to the beach for a cookout? The family, right? I see the hands going up, nice. And so chances are you'd have seen a fire being made like that. They will get the little grass and stuff, or tiny bits of wood or paper, and they gather it together and they make like a little tent. I'll show you how to do that. And then once that fire catches, they begin adding more sticks, and then you get the big pieces of wood, or the big pieces of wood are there on the side, ready to make the big fire. And once that big fire starts, you get the big pot with the water and the provision or the fish or whatever the case is. And you put that on the fire and boom, big fire is ready, cooking and ready to go. So these 3 things are needed to start a fire. And it is important to know the difference among each of them, or the difference between tinder and kindling and fuel wood. Remember that tinder is the smallest, followed by kindling, and followed by fuel wood. All right? So you have that covered. Now, why do we need fire? Right? Why do we need fire? That's the third objective. Why do we need fire? Camps or cookouts, we need fire for heat or warmth. In the night, in the outdoors, it tends to get cold. Why? We don't have, generally when we're going on outdoor camps, except we're camping in a building, we do not have walls to protect us. Chances are we're sleeping in tents or under a tarpaulin or under the night sky. The night sky is our roof, and the trees around us or near us are our walls. So it gets cold. So fire can be used to give us heat or warmth. Fires can also be used to dry our clothes. After a rainy day or a cold day, we use fires to help dry our clothes. And this is especially important if we're camping for a 2-day or 3-day hike, and you may have packed just enough clothes and some of your clothes get wet. You need them to dry quickly enough so you can use for the following day. Wet clothes on a person can lead to pneumonia, or in this least case, getting a cold. And you don't want to be sick on camp. Of course, fires can be used for cooking. And we've already established that when you go out by the river, by the sea, have a cookout. Fire as well can be used for light. So you can see what's going on around your camp without having to use a flashlight all the time. When you go on camps, there is no outlet in the wilderness for you to charge your phone. So while it is good to have your flash on your phone as a flashlight, after a while, you may not have enough battery life. If you have a fire going, at least you can make your way around the camp without necessarily needing a flashlight, except in instances where you have to go where there is no light. Fires are also good as a bug repellent. So mosquitoes, flies generally do not stay close around fires. So if you have a big fire going, that's a good way to help keep the bugs away. And lastly, fire helps keep predators away. We do not have that many predators in Dominica, I would think, except for some big snakes that you might not see based on where you're camping. Just messing. Yeah, there are some snakes based on where you go, but we don't have things like bears, we have things like lions and those things. And generally, even if we don't have bears or lions, animals tend to stay away from fires. That's the general norm. So a fire is a good way to help keep the big animals away. By the way, someone can type for me in the chat, which is the smallest of the three: Tinder, kindling, or fuel wood? Which is the smallest? Kindling, tinder, or fuel wood? I see a lot of Tinders going up. Nice, very good. That means you've been paying attention. Right? Nice, 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 nice. Very good, very good. That means you're learning and you're paying attention. Very nice. Now, we're going to look at how to put out a fire. Now, you may say, well, Pastor, we haven't even learned how to build a fire. Why are we learning about how to put out a fire? Well, all right, nice. How to put out a fire? Why is it important to put out a fire? One of the basic rules of camping skills, as you will learn, is that you want to leave your campsite the same way that you met it, as close as possible to it. Or another way to put it is, whenever you leave a campsite, it should be in such a way that no one knows you camped there. And one of the things you need to do in order to make that a reality is to put out your fire well. Some of the things that you will need to do to help you put out a fire well is to know how to start a fire well. Generally, we say that you give a large enough perimeter around your fire. Some will go between 5 to 10 feet radius, and you know the radius is half a circle. So if you have a 10-foot diameter around, 10-foot diameter going around your fire, there are good ways to start. That means you clear away grass, you clear away leaves around the fire, so that when the fire is lit, just in case any flying bits of ashes or kindling escapes, then it will have nothing to burn on and spread your fire. As well, some persons will dig a trench around their fire, or dig a small clearing where you can actually place your fire and keep the soil that you dig out nearby, so that when you are ready to out your fire, you have that soil to cover where you burn, so no one can see your ashes. So let's look at how to put out a fire. There are several steps or several things you can do. First of all, you need lots of water to help out your fire. Water is one of the easiest ways to out your fire. Get lots of water, have lots of water available. You'll need buckets. You will need containers, dishes, whatever the case is, to wet down your fire, out your fire. We'll get down to why water, why having the fire cool is important. You will also use dirt. Remember I said just now that you can dig out a hole or dig out a trench or dig out a piece of land so that you can place your fire in. And once the fire is out, you can use the dirt to cover out the fire, or at least cover the ashes that are there. If you remember as well, there are 3 components to making a fire. If you remember them, type them in the chat. I will not tell you what they are. 3 components to making a fire. If you remember, type them in the chat. This one will take a little while. Nice. Nice. Heat, fuel, oxygen, heat. Right. Fuel, oxygen, heat, fuel, oxygen, fuel. Nice. Very good. Very good. Your answers are coming in well. It tells me that you remember the stuff. Very good. Thank you very much. If you put dirt on your fire, you are helping to remove oxygen from the fire because the dirt is going to cover the fire and prevent the fire from getting oxygen. So that's another way to help put out your fire. The third way, or the third thing you can do, it ciphers the fire, very good, is to spread apart the logs. Now, spreading apart the logs would mean that you are depriving the fire of any fuel because they are fuel wood. So your big logs, when you move them apart, you are depriving the fire of its fuel. So the fire that was big because all the logs were together, when you pull the logs apart, the fire is now spread apart more and it has less fuel to keep it going. And then the other way to help out your fire is to turn over the coals with a shovel. So when you dig the coals are the bits of wood that may not necessarily be burning, but they are still hot. And sometimes you can tell how hot they are by how white the coals are. Or sometimes they glow with a little red glow. When you turn them over, you are, chances are the heat or the fire will be on top of the coals. When you turn it over, you are exposing the coals or the hot side to dirt, which deprives it from oxygen, as well as placing it in a colder place because you know hot air or heat tends to rise. All right. When you do these four things, lots of water, using dirt to cover the fire, spreading the logs, and turning over the coals, you are in a good process of outing the fire. Now, if the ground or the ashes feel hot to the touch, the fire is not yet out. That is very important to know. Do not just assume that if there are no flames, then there is no fire. Nope. Nope, 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 that's not the case. You know why? Because if you were to place a piece of paper on one of those hot coals, give it a little bit of time, and I'm sure that paper will ignite and a fire will start again. Same thing can happen with a branch or a bit of dry grass. And that's how many fires, while they might be thought they are out, they can still progress and press on. If you look at the news and you see some fires happening in places like California or the western part of the United States, even in some other places where there is extreme drought, someone might go for a camp and they may not out the fire properly, or they may have a celebration, they use fireworks or something, and the fireworks go up in the air and bing, bang, boom, and everything looks nice and happy and festive and whatnot. But then a little piece of flame lands in a patch of grass. And you think, well, oh, that small thing is just a little smoke, there's no fire. So if there's smoke, there's still a fire. If there's still heat, there's still a fire. So if the ground or the ashes feel hot, the fire is not out. If you still see smoke coming from the ground or coming from the ashes, the fire is not out. It said if there is smoke, there is fire. And if the ground or ashes feel cold to the touch, if you can place your hand and you don't feel heat, then it's a safe bet that the fire is out. Right? So again, you look for smoke and you look for heat. If there is no smoke or no heat, then you are sure that the fire is out as far as possible. All right. Let's press on. We're going to learn now how to build a fire. By the way, can someone in the chat type for me? What are 3 uses of fires? Rapid fire quiz. 3 uses of fires. Any 3. You can type them just to see how well you're doing. We are looking good with time. To cook, for warmth, for lights, nice. Drying clothes, lightly cooking. Cooking, source of light and warmth, very nice. Drying clothes. Nice. Very good. Yes, keep predators away. Cook on warmth. I haven't seen a particular one. Let me see. Yes, good. That's what I want to see. Bug repellent. Very nice. Drying clothes. Very good, everybody. Nice. Very good. All right, we can pause here for now. So looking at how to build a fire. I gave you this in speech, but now you have it in a visual form. The first thing is you're going to have your tinder. Your tinder will be your leaves, your bark, your newspaper, your match to an extent. You will not use all your matches for tinder, but you want, as far as possible, to build a little mound that you can use. Another nice way to make your mound, if you have, I should also mention this as well. Do you know dry coconut? I know the little when you peel a coconut, the little threads that come out. That's good tinder as well. Forget what they call it in Patois, another way to think. The husk. Yes, the husk of your coconut, not the shell, the husk, the thready parts of it. You can use that for tinder. It's very good tinder. No? The fibers. Yes, thank you, Ms. The fibers. Good. Good to always have a teacher around. So what you want to do, you want to make a little mound. It kind of looks like how my hands are shaped. And when you're making your tinder, putting your tinder together, you want to leave a little hole where when you light your match, you can place your match in there. The picture has it on top. That's all well and good. But you want to also light it from below, so when the fire catches, it can ignite what's above it. That also helps keep wind from extinguishing your fire too soon. When you go outdoors, God's willing, sooner than later, and you're lighting your fire in your camp, what you might see happen, or what your director might do, is call everyone to huddle together and surround where you want to light your fire. That is to keep the wind from blowing your fire out too soon. You need oxygen for the fire to breathe, yes, but when you're lighting it, too much wind can out your fire before it starts. So you surround it, you huddle around, you make sure not too much wind isn't blowing. You light your match as close as possible to the fire. I need to, while I'm trying to duck, I have to remember I'm on camera. You crack your match and you, as quickly as possible, place it under your tinder, and you will just see it start to light and begin. Yes, I'm asking as far as possible not to draw on the screen. Thank you. Let's get that eraser. Let's rub that off. Nice. So once you've done that and your tinder, your fiber, your husk, your bark, your leaves have started to light, then you want to add your Kindle. Your Kindle, you will add it in the style of a teepee. Now, the Native Americans, the Indians, the Kalinagos, I imagine to an extent, or not the Kalinagos, but the Native Americans, their tents are different to how we have our tents now. Their tents were a teepee, which is in the shape of a cone. If you've done geometry at school, you would know what a cone looks like. It looks like an ice cream cone to an extent, right? So it's like a smooth pyramid, a circle at the base, and the sides go all the way up. You want to place your kindling like a teepee. So your sticks go around just like it's in the picture. And you add enough sticks, enough kindling to make your teepee, not to stifle the fire right away, but you add them slowly enough so that bit by bit, the teepee catches fire. If you add too many bits of kindling at one time, you may starve the fire of its oxygen and it will out before it gets a chance to light up. So you want to add them slowly and surely and build your fire as you go on. The third step is to add your logs or your fuel wood to the fire. You can add them in the same teepee style, stack them like a tent over your kindling, or you could make them like a log cabin. I will show you the log fire in a bit. But a log cabin is basically, you have two pieces of log going one way, and above them you have another 2 pieces of log going on in the opposite direction. So it's going to look like a square being built up, and you'll see that in the picture soon enough. So how to build a fire again? You have your tinder, then your teepee with your kindling, and then your teepee or log cabin with your log fires. Excuse me, allow me to just take a little drink to wet the throat of righteousness, for his name's sake. All right, so we have that covered. So remember, you build your fire, tinder, teepee, or log cabin. All right, now, before I go to our next slide, remind me in the chat, outside of using water, what else can you do? And you're just going to type one way, what else can you do to help out a fire outside of using water? Dirt, stifle, dirt, use dirt. Dirt, I see, sand, nice. I'm sure I listed 2 other ways. Spread out logs, very good. Yes, turn over coals, excellent. My lord, not pee-pee. But yes, turn over coals, sand, and spread it like fire extinguisher, nice. Get rid of the logs, thanks. Step on it, yo, step on it. If it's a small fire, but generally don't advise that. Use the shovel to flip over the coals, yes. Very good, excellent. You guys are learning well. Very nice, good. Blow, if it's a small fire, it can, but for a big fire, no matter how much you blow, you might even add more to the flames. So we're going to look at different types of fires as we wind down. We might end a little earlier, but it'll give me time for questions. You have a teepee style campfire. These are for small fires. You can use these for light and for heat by an extension. So you notice for this one, they made a platform with sticks to place the kindling on. And then from there, they made their teepee, not their kindling, their tinder. They made a little stand with sticks crossing each other. And then they had their kindling in the middle. If you can see my mouse, but they have the kindling in the middle. Let me annotate. So the kindling is right here. Let me use another thread. So the kindling is right here. You see the match lit. And above that, they have their tinder, which will eventually catch fire. Right? So that is one style. Escape. Then you have your log cabin, or a crisscross style campfire. Now, I will show you this one, how this one works. So here, you have your kindling. So this picture shows that you light this way under here. Now, how I would have done it is that you'd have your tinder and your kindling. And once that fire catches, you get your firewood, your fuel wood, and the crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. And that's your log cabin. This one has wood of varying diameter. So the smaller ones are on top, and you get the bigger ones as you go all the way down, where you go from big to small, big in building your way up. This is good to get heat In some cases, it could also be used for cooking. And I'll show you a couple better ones for cooking. A trapper or parallel log or the hunter's fire. This one is decent for cooking. I should also add some persons, or the log cabin. Yes, the log cabin is good for heat. Not so much light, but good for heat. And in some instances, cooking. All right, no problem. The hunter's fire is very good for cooking. Or I should also add, some persons may use it for baking sometimes. But the hunter's fire is good for cooking. You just have your pot or your pan. All right, I ask you not to annotate as best as possible. Thank you. I'll do the annotating for you. Right, so your kindling and your tinder is between here. And once the fire builds up, you bring your logs, your 2 parallel logs, you join them together so that there's a big enough space that your pots or your pans can be placed on top of them, and the fire will burn between here. And as the fire burns, it will eat away at the 2 logs. So you have to monitor this fire well, because what will eventually happen is once the logs burn out, your pots can fall in, and you don't want that. So you have to monitor this fire well. You have to monitor all fires, but this one in a special way. Then you have the reflector fire. Reflector cooking campfire. This here has a portable, spelled this wrong, reflector oven. But the reflector fire, if you don't have this portable oven, you can use it in this way. You build your fire in the middle. Let me annotate again. I will use blue this time. You have your tinder and kindling here. And then you'll have your fuel woods coming here as well. Then you will, this person is using an L-shaped stick to stack their reflector, stack the woods, the pieces of wood used for the reflector part. I know a reflector sounds like a mirror, right? You know a mirror stands this way and bounces light off of it. In this case, the wall of logs at the back reflects the heat that comes from this fire. So your fire is generally reflected in one direction. Is your fire, the heat is going to be directed this way. Should point it this way, away from the wall. Persons can use this for baking. You might want to leave enough space between here and here and bake your stuff in between here, somewhere in between here, as the case may be. All right. So that is another fire. You generally use these for baking. You can use it for cooking to an extent, but generally for baking. Oopsie, 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 oopsie. Where's my drawing? All right, let's clear all. Skip this. There's another way of cooking. There's another fancier way. You can probably try this if you want. It's a star cooking campfire. So notice the wood or the fuel logs are placed in a ring. And for this fire, what you will do is as the fire burns, it's going to eat away at the wood. So to feed the fire, you just push your logs inside. And as you push them in, the fire is going to keep burning. And again, with all fires, you have to monitor this well, because if you were to just place a pot on this fire and don't monitor it, the pot will fall into the fire and you don't want that. The rocks I used to prop up this stick as a stand or a pot holder, as the case may be. Someone was asking, if you sand on a log cabin fire, will it out? Yes, it can. but you have to do more than just throwing sand. The sand, if it gets within the log cabin, so remember the log cabin stacks wood, and there's a hole in the middle. If you throw the dirt in there, you have a better chance of the fire outing. But at the same time, you have to keep into mind that the logs stacked around it have also been burning. So you'll need to use water as well. You will need to pull apart the logs as well to make sure that you expose enough of the logs to the dirt to get rid of the oxygen, or to water to cool out the heat. All right. This is another fire. This is, I think in Western history, they call it the boucan. The buccaneers would cook like this. The wood here, they stack their pots over it. And this looks like a log cabin fire, doesn't it? A log cabin fire, a little mini log cabin fire under here, or at least a frame with which the fire is cooking on, and you're good to go. These are some clips, some video clips, as well as the fire building honor, so you can get more information. Right? Oh, sorry, too fast. My bad. You don't have to write down the websites. I will send them to your coordinator, who will send to the directors on the chat. So you will have this. That's no problem. Or if you just go on YouTube or Google how to make this fire, how to make that fire, you'd be good to go. All right. These are the links, so you can look at them in your spare time. Some outside cooking rules. Nothing goes into the campfire pit except paper. You don't want to throw juice. You don't want to throw your food in there. You don't want to throw plastic, because any of these things could either out your fire or add to the fire too much heat, as the case may be. Put all garbage into the garbage can, not on the ground or fire pit. All right, so you do not want to put garbage in there, although some persons do. It is not the safest thing, right? Wash and dry all dishes, utensils, tools, and return them into your Tupperware. Only use yellow sponges. For each piece of garbage left behind in the fire, the class is grounded for 1 day. That's some rules from another camp. You can choose to apply that to your rules or not. If your tribe loses any material utensils, your tribe gets a 0 for the day, and your tribe gets written up. You don't have to worry about the 4th and 5th rule too much, but you can give the directors ideas for when you have your next camp. All right. So essentially, that brings me to the end of my presentation. You can use rules 1 to 3. The others, that's at the discretion of your club. I see some person still writing, so I'll give you a chance. And that should be it for everybody. Yeah. Oh, not yet. Okay, I'll leave this one up. I'll take any questions. You can either type them in the chat or use the raise hand option. If you have a question and you want to say it out loud, you can raise your hand. I will see your hand and I will answer your question. You can ask your question and I'll answer. We have less than 5 minutes. Okay, I see no hand, but I see an applause. Okay, Lindy, go right ahead. Lindy, you have a question? You can go ahead and ask. Unmute your mic and ask. All right, if not Lindy, let's take Khalid.
Okay, Pastor, I'm just going to allow them to speak.
Oh, okay,
Lindy,
okay,
I'm going to ask you to unmute, so you could unmute right now.
Oh, my apologies, yes.
When you were giving out ways to out fires, I said some are trying to like express because like I didn't know what exactly to say because like
No problem.
normally there's like a rug or something you take and you wave it or you knock it on the fire and then it'll out. So that is what I wanted to say.
Okay, I understand. Yes, that can work. It will work especially for smaller fires. You might see it on TV. Hold on, Colleen. You might see it happening for like if someone has caught fire on their body, they will use the rug or towel to help out it. So for smaller fires, that works well. For larger fires, you will need more than just a rug. But thank you for that. Yes, you are correct. A rug can help in outing fires. Khalid, go ahead.
I wanted to say if when you making your fire, if you have gasoline, is it wise to use it to help it?
To help, okay. Whatever fluid or lighter fluid you use, well, let me backtrack. Generally in camp, you want to use what's in nature, what's around you. You don't want to add any accelerant because they can be difficult to control once they're lit. If you're going to use kerosene or gasoline, it is best if an adult is the one doing it and not a pathfinder, not yourself doing it. You don't want to just say the fire not catching. So sometimes that happens. I'll give an example. You might be lighting your kindling, your starting fire, and then you add your Tinder. And someone said, but not lighting, you're not catching fast. And someone says, throw kerosene on it or throw oil on it. And they throw the oil. Based on how heavy the oil is, sometimes you not catch right away and you think, well, they're not lighting, man. And then in a second, boom, big fire. And it can cause damage to an individual, it can cause harm, it can lead to someone being hospitalized, as the case may be. You don't want to just use accelerants like that. As far as possible, avoid them. Give your fire time to catch itself. And I should have said this as well, if you are at the Tinder stage, that's when you're making a small TP at first, and you notice the fire tends to be going out quickly, remove some of the Tinder and give the fire time to catch itself. And once it begins to build, then you can add more Tinder, and then you can add more wood. All right. So I hope that helps. Try not to use accelerants right away. Use what's in nature, what's around you. And if you have to use anything apart from that, use paper. That tends to be easier to control. Before I take Jay, I saw a question about yellow sponges. Yellow sponges generally, it is easier to identify when they're too dirty or when they're dirty versus when they are clean. And you know, if you use a sponge for too long, it gets too dirty and you throw it away. So yellow sponges are advised, at least so that you can see how dirty they are. If you have to use scrubbing wire for more difficult stains, that's another story. But if it's just your plates you're washing, generally a yellow sponge will do you just fine. So that's the counsel there. Thank you for your question. Jay Charles, I think that's the last hand. Go ahead, Jay or Jai. I think it's Jai.
Sorry. That was my question with the yellow sponges. Yeah, that was my question. So
no problem. No problem. You're welcome. I am glad I was able to answer your questions, and I think that's all. So thank you very much for paying attention. Oh yes, ways to keep the fire out is burning or removing the bush around it. Yes. Very good. Someone suggested that another way is to burn the bush around it. I would say not just burn, but remove or clear it away so that no other bush or anything else gets lit. Let me stop share my screen so I can see your faces better. Yes, I see one more hand. Go ahead, Shama. Try now. Yes.
Yes, so we can use other materials
to get the fire going. Like you can use gum from the tree and stuff.
Yes. Very correct. Gum is in nature, and gum can be flammable as well. Again, you want to be careful when you are using materials. So you need to be aware of what's too flammable versus what is moderately flammable, so that you do not create a fire bigger than what you want. What can a star cooking be used for? The star can be used for, the star fire can be used for cooking, can also be used for light and heat. Like when you have your bonfires, that one is nice because the most you have to do to keep the fire going is as the middle burns out, you just push the log in. You might need a longer stick to just gently push the logs in to feed the fire. Just push all around, and the star will get smaller as the fire keeps going. So there is that. I have noted that this session is on YouTube. Let me see. I guess that's for persons who may have gotten knocked off.
Yes, and the room is filled. So
yes,
it's for persons who want to still view the session, but just not within the Zoom.
Right, fair enough. So what I will do, once I'm finished and you guys move ahead, I will leave to give someone another chance. I'll give someone a chance to get in, because I think the breakout sessions will be worthwhile for the Pathfinders more than the officers. And if by chance you're in a house that two of you or more than one of you are in the same section, so if you have two juniors and you're using two different devices, you may want to use one device just so that others can get a chance to come on. So that would just be my advice as well. But I will step away just so that someone else can get a chance to come in once I am through with my presentation.
Pastor Denny, not so quick yet. We still need.
No, I'm not going yet. I'm just saying.
Managing the breakout room, so yes.
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. All right. But my time has passed by 2 minutes. Thank you very much for having me. I hope this session helped. And counselors, I'm challenging you whenever possible. If you're going to meet online, or online, at least for now, and you're going to do honors like these, use YouTube. You'll get good resources. Use Google. I will send the PowerPoint to Director Fabian so she can send to all leaders. And whenever things are open back, so at least we can be outdoors in freedom, practice making some of the fires with your children. It will make this session come alive. God bless. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so very much, Pastor Denny, for being our presenter for Masterclass today on fires. I hope everyone learned a lot about fires. So if you learn a lot about fires, put fires in the chat. Fires. You could either put lit or you could put the fire. Well, type fires. Let's see those fires light up the chat. Okay, yes. We're seeing it all. That means, okay, great. We're seeing lots of persons. And if you're on YouTube as well, you could also indicate that in the chat. Fires or lit. We hope that you would have learned quite a lot about fires today. So this brings us to the end of our first masterclass, which looks at fires. Thank you again, Pastor Denny, for being our tutor on this.